Can you hear me? Okay, perfect. So if you're thinking about selling in Jersey City right now, this is one decision that will either make you money or it will quietly cost you a whole bunch of it. Most people don't even realize which side they're on until it's already too late and it's happening. So I'm Jill with the Jill Biggs Group. Today, we're going to talk about how to actually price your home the right way in 2026. Not what Zillow says, not what your neighbor thinks you could get for it, not what you hope it might be worth. I'm talking about what numbers actually make sense if you actually want to sell and sell for the most money. Because pricing's not just a number, it's a strategy. And in Jersey City, it's a little bit more layered than people expect, right? We have different neighborhoods and they trade differently. There's different buildings. There are different buyer pools. Buyers are coming from different places. What matters to them, right? It might be different. So we're gonna break it down the right way. What does pricing correctly actually mean? Where sellers get this wrong, right? How the Jersey City market actually reacts and how to position your home so that you get the top dollar and the best results. Let's start here. What does it actually mean to price something correctly, right? Most people think it means, let's price it high and see what happens, right? Let's wait. Right? Here's the reality. That strategy almost never works in your favor. Pricing correctly means you're positioning yourself in the market, right? So that people sell quickly, right? But not so quickly that you're leaving money on the table. And I have to say, right, it's super market specific. So in certain areas, if you go there and they have 41 offers and the properties trade for 30% over asking in a weekend, well, that's not my market, right? If you get 40 offers in my market and your property trades in the weekend, right, you lost money, right? You should have priced it a little bit higher. Well-priced property in our market, typically, right, it goes on for the weekend, it's priced correctly, and that means it's positioned because nobody's looking at one property. They're typically looking at 6. And if you have a smart realtor, they're showing them to you and saying, do you like this better or worse than the one before? And you want to position yourself so that you stand out in the pack. That's how you get people to make offers. So pricing matters, drives you traffic, gets you interest. By the second week, you have people, they're asking questions, they're maybe putting in offers, right? And this way, not only, right, are you getting a lot of traffic, you get a lot of interest, other buyers see that you have interest. There's nothing like a busy open house to inspire people to make offers. And FYI, there's nothing like an offer on a property to get people to make the highest offer with the best terms, putting down the most money, waiving inspections or limiting them, whatever they feel comfortable with. But pricing right really makes a difference. And being hyper local about what your market does and what the strategy in that market is, it makes a difference, and it's important to find this out before you put yourself on the market. So in Jersey City, right, similarly to Hoboken, those first couple of weeks, they matter the most. That's when you get the most eyeballs, the most exposure, the most serious buyers, right? The most leverage. And if you miss that window because you didn't price yourself correctly, you lost momentum. And in this market, momentum is everything. So let's talk about where this strategy goes sideways, right? First, if you're pricing the property, and I ask people all the time, right? When I see something and it seems a little wonky, I'm like, to the agent, did you price this or was this the seller, right? Like, you gotta be careful. If you price based on want or based on what you need or you think you have to walk away with, the market doesn't work like that. The market sets the price. Buyers are deciding value because they're not looking at one property, they're looking at multiples. So second, right, using one sale as the anchor in pricing, right? So something in your building, your neighbor sold, right? However, you could be in one building and have 25 different layouts, and maybe the one in the front with the New York City view, right, does one thing. And the one in the back that's facing a brick wall does another thing, right? Be careful. Also, maybe the neighbor gut renovated his unit and added a Sub-Zero and a Wolf range, but you have a cooktop plugged in the back, right? So condition and whatever the upgrades are, right? Or maybe your neighbor has a wonky layout, and they're calling themselves a 2-bedroom, but they're technically a 1-bedroom den, and the bedroom is so small that, you can only sleep a baby in there, right? There are differences, and you have to pay attention. Location, layout, condition, all of those things, school district, taxes, your HOA fees, right? You have to price yourself right, because not doing that limits traffic and ultimately can end up in slowing you down, losing your momentum, and just not getting top dollar. One more thing that I think is impactful that is coming down the pike is we no longer really know, right, what the end price was, because you don't know about the concessions that were made, right? Who paid compensation? Was it divided evenly? Did the buyer pay for all of it because it was a vigorous bidding war? Or did the buyer offer to pay some of the transfer tax? Did the buyer offer to buy down your mansion tax? All of these things ultimately impact what you're actually selling for. But we don't have the ability to see this, or you don't have the ability to see it, because what's reported in the tax records is not reflective of what necessarily happened. Anyway, that's why, right, hyperlocal expert, you need somebody who knows the ins and outs and can direct you, right? Because testing the market, right, it's not always like, unless you don't want to sell, right? It sounds, almost harmless, but if you really are intending to sell, letting your house sit on the market for 160 days so that buyers think there's something wrong with the property, it might not be the best strategy. Okay, let's talk about how buyers behave in Jersey City right now. So this is not a passive market, right? Our market moves quickly. Buyers are comparing everything across the buildings, across neighborhoods, across price points. They all have access to the internet. They know more about real estate, like everybody is getting an education. So you're competing, right, with new construction, other luxury buildings, townhomes, and nearby neighborhoods. When your price is right, you stand out, right? You don't want to blend in or get ignored. You don't want to lose attention because it's really super hard to get it back. Let's break down what actually impacts your number. So first, the neighborhood, right? And the micro location, right? Downtown trades different than the waterfront, which is different than the Heights, which is different than Journal Square, and everything that's up and coming, your proximity to transportation, right? They all have a different buyer, a different ceiling, a different feel. And even within the same block, right, there's differences in quality of construction, the builder, concrete and steel, new construction, right? How long you've been renovated. Not everything is created equal, right? Some people, it's important, they want a lobby, they want amenities, they want to know the reputation, they don't like the building name, they don't like the management company. Buyers factor everything in. What's my monthly payment? Is it modern? Do I have a view of anything? It's same as everywhere else, but even more noticeable here, because buyers right now, right, they got spoiled. They want it to be clean, updated, move-in ready. If it feels like a project, right, like a discount, you're getting a discounted price. And the layout better be the way that they need it, right? Layout and light are very, very important. 2 units, same size, can feel completely different. the better feeling one wins every time. And fifth, outdoor space and parking, right? I know, right, since being trapped for a long time with my entire family, that the outdoor space saved my life. And I will tell you that for me, it's a non-negotiable. Everybody comes with their list of non-negotiables. And parking, if you've been used to not having parking, which I honestly, for 10 years, I drove around and I knew all the secret spots. But now that I had parking, it became like, oh my God, I can actually use my car. So those things are big and they're different for everyone. For some people, having a terrace, a roof deck, and parking are very important. For other people, they're in better shape. They're happy to go to the 4th floor walk up. They don't care about amenities. They have a membership at CrossFit, so they don't need the gym in the building. And that they're decision makers. So you just got to pay attention because they are impactful in a pricing situation. So let's talk about how we have a strategy, right? Because this is where, like, it matters, right? You're either pricing yourself high and then chasing the market down, right? Or, right, you got to be careful, right? You got to look at what's more important. What is more important than what has recently sold? It's what is currently under contract. What's my active competition? Because everybody can see you. Everybody has the internet. Everybody is out hopping around looking at properties. And if something hits the market and it meets everyone's criteria, it's in their price point, it has all of their wants and needs, right? It has an immediate rush of traffic and it has offers, right? But when you overprice your property and you sit there, they're not that enthusiastic. It doesn't matter just because you feel that you love your home better than everyone else does. If it's sitting there, right, and nobody's coming to make appointments, then you're chasing the market down, right? And then you end up having to reduce, which means you lose leverage, right? And that in this market, to me, is the most important thing, right? If you price correctly and you have a lot of offers, right? You have buyers that are waiving or limiting inspection and they're giving people the terms that they want, good down payment, possible rent back scenario so that people can free up their money, and actually nobody wants to be homeless, nobody wants to move twice. Those things go into having a wonderful offer, which you get when you price yourself correctly. And having a strategy, like, I think it's important. That way, you got a plan. That's why you see one unit sell quickly and another almost identical property sit. It's not luck. It's doing things the right way, having a pricing strategy, not putting it on the market till you take care of all of the little things that are going to impact your showings. Let's be honest about this part. I mean, I can speak for myself, right? Pricing your home is emotional. You've invested all your money in your home, right? You're super attached to it. You have lots of memories. You love the tiles that you put in the kitchen and the fact that you painted everything green, and it's your home, right? But you have to be very careful, right? Buyers have access to the internet. They can see everything. They're comparing your neighbor. And, right, if you're out there at a number that doesn't give you any traffic, right, no showings, then maybe your number doesn't match reality, right? And the buyer moves on. So how do you actually know if you got it right? Well, ultimately, the market's going to tell you. And the truth is the market's going to tell you quickly, right? You launch yourself on a Thursday. You don't let anyone in until the earliest Friday night. You have your open houses, okay? If you don't have a bunch of traffic, unless, of course, there's some huge, massive tidal wave storm and nobody comes out, right? If there's no appointments, no engagement, silence, you're not priced right? So, right, you want to pay attention and go on the market at a realistic price by looking at what is my active competition, right? So that you know what are they going to pit me up against. You want to make sure everything looks the way that it should, right? Don't show it and tell people, well, we're going to declutter, right? Or if it's empty, right? People can't see past that. So you price things, right, around what else is on the market, and you pay attention to your feedback, right? Because that's where people lose their money. So now let's bring this back to you. If you're even thinking about selling, or you're just trying to understand your position, people check on that all the time. The goal is, don't guess, right? You got to understand where you actually stand. Once you know, you have clarity, you can make a real decision, right? Is my decision to sell now? Should I wait? Do I want to move? Am I going to reinvest? Am I just going to sit on it? But with knowledge, you have power. Honestly, that's what most people want. So if you're a little bit like me, even a little bit, right? You're just trying to make sense of what's actually going on in this market and where you really stand, reach out. We'll break it down for you in a way that actually makes sense. No fluff, no guessing, just real numbers you can actually use. And if you like real estate explained like a normal person, hit subscribe, like the video, and tell me, do you think your home is priced where it should be right now? Or do you think it's even close? So I'm Jill Biggs, and I'll see you in the next video.